This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting here with Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And Lee Libby.
Howdy.
Who?
Is that the good Lee? No, that's the bad Lee. That's right. I heard he was bad and he got coal in his stocking.
I thought he was dead. Wouldn't return my calls.
Yeah.
You can't call.
Yeah.
You got to text.
I can't text. I got that problem, remember?
Yeah, what happened? No service?
Yeah, something to do with working on the tower they're getting. It's a new tower in town, and I just found that out finally after they've been doing testing before they go full out on it. But, I mean, we've been getting the service all along. That's why we switched to AT&T. But it doesn't get text unless they're from AT&T customers. It's the strangest thing. I never heard of such a thing. So, but if I come down here and hit a different tower, I'll get them all in, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like the middleman. Lee doesn't take calls. You don't take texts. So you guys go back and forth between me and...
Yeah. And then
I'm
Lee's...
more like a...
You can't leave Lee
secretary.
a message because his voicemail box is always full.
Yeah, it doesn't make no sense to empty it because it's full next week. Stupid shit. Your car warranty is out. Well, find me a car with a warranty on it that I own.
Yeah.
Where have you been, Lee?
Oh,
People are concerned about you. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone thought that
Well, if they
Hal
was
fired you and...
Yeah. If they were that concerned, they can come over to 3041 Main Street in Rangeley and help me finish that house.
Yeah, bring your hammer and a tape measure is all you need, right?
Yeah. No, we've been busy building the house.
For you.
For me, yeah. I sold mine, and so I'm homeless at the moment.
Yeah.
Not
you
really,
look
but-
homeless.
Yeah, I do, huh? Yeah. So, yeah, just stuff. Been a good year. It's been a year of reckoning, I call it.
Yeah.
And hopefully, along with the coronavirus, the old Lee will go away.
What about that?
What's that? COVID?
Yeah, you know anything about that? Lee?
Yeah, I got a T-shirt for Christmas, and I don't want to say that it's not a horrible disease because I know there's people dying from it every day.
Wait a minute. It's not a disease.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Virus.
That virus. Yep. Okay.
Some people want to call it a disease, but it ain't.
And however you feel about it doesn't, in a group of 10 people, 5 people feel one way and 5 people feel the other, But I can tell you from somebody who had it, who actually was not looking forward to getting it, but didn't mind if I didn't get it, because I am a non-mask wearer unless you ask me to, and out of respect, I'll do it.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't mind. So I got it from a cup of coffee. A friend of mine, John, we went hunting on a Monday, tracked deer. He called me Monday night, said that his work called him and said that he had some people in the shop that had it, but they were on a different shift, so we didn't think too much of it. Wednesday morning, I texted him, "You want to go hunting?" He's like, "No, I'm sick as a dog." I'm like, son of a bitch. So I went, Nathan K went with me, and we went into the only place in northern Maine that had snow, and we hunted. And we can cruise. I know people probably think we're crazy, but 9 to 12 miles a day is a good day. But I ain't shitting you, I couldn't do 5. In fact, there was spots I'd go 50 yards up a hill and stop and catch my breath, and another 50 yards and stop. So sometime around 2 o'clock, I had an epiphany, and I'm like, I am not right. Something's not right. I got to get back to the truck. So I beelined it back to the truck, got in, turned the heat on, went found Nathan there just before dark, and we came home. Thursday got up, shook it off like it was a flu. Lots of times I can shake the flu in 24 hours, Then you end up with that stuffy head and cold. So it kind of subsided. Friday, put the trusses on my house. Saturday, we sheathed the house, 100% ice and water shield. Finished up at dark on Saturday night. So those 2 good days with 2 of my guys. And I was walking across the field because I'm building, my house is right next to my wife's grandfather's house, which we're actually staying at. And it was like you dropped a school bus right on top of me. Boom. And I'm like, holy shit. I just about picked my feet up. So I walk into the house and my girl says to me, she goes, "You're moving awful slow." And I'm like, boy, something just hit me. So took a shower, went right to bed. Didn't think too much of it. Sunday I get up, went back over, cleaned up the job site, kind of dubbed around for 6 hours or so, went back, took it easy. Monday morning I got up, it was pouring rain. I had bought an old barn in Mexico, Maine, and I took my excavator down, and we made 3 trips with timbers back from Mexico to Rangeley. It's about an hour. And then I went down, got my excavator about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I shook like a dog all the way back in the truck with the heat on 100. And I had one of my guys with me, and he's like, "Geez, Liv, I hope I don't get whatever you've got." And I'm like, "Oh, we're going to head home." So I sent a text out and said, "I don't know how I'm going to feel in the morning. Let's just sleep in until I text you." So I got up about 6 and I'm having my coffee and I'm like, "Geez, I don't feel too bad." And all of a sudden the phone rings. It's John. He says, "Hey, I got my COVID test back. I'm positive." I'm like, son of a gun. So I called around and, the frontline responders, I know they're putting their lives out there and that's awesome. But in a little remote place in northern Maine, when you call the health center and say, "I'm pretty sure I have COVID, I'd like to get tested," you instantly become the Antichrist.
Yeah.
It's like, what? What did
You
you
hear
say?
Lee's a leper?
Yeah.
And it's just like, what? Like, we're not testing here today. So I made a few phone calls and I rattled a couple cages. And the next thing I know, they called me back and said, "Hey, we can test you at 12:30. I'm like, okay. So I walk in. You got to go in the back door because they don't want you anywhere else. You have to have your mask on. This person comes out in a full suit. And they shove this Q-tip so far up your nose that you think they're headed for the other side. And they take the sample and they walk out. And they tell you to exit the building the way you came in. So I go back out. 20 minutes later, they call me and said, "You've got COVID." I'm like, "Is there anything I should do?" They're like, "Yeah, stay home." That's it. So then Chrissy went and got tested at 5 o'clock that night. And I had some of my employees go get tested immediately. And everybody that was around me, we inundated that place that day. I'm like, call them and push them. Tell them you want to get tested ASAP. Everybody that was around me except for Chrissy tested negative. But it was COVID shame is a real thing. I will tell you that, especially in a small town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I did have...
Lee's a victim now.
Yeah, I'm a victim. Yeah, send me my check.
I never expected you to play the victim card, Lee.
Oh, but it's kind of funny because I was sick let's see, I felt like crap Sunday, started Saturday night. I felt like crap Sunday. I don't know what that last Wednesday thing was. I think that might have been the day that I actually, it came in and said, "All right, I'm here." But I was sick, so I took Tuesday, the rest of that day off, Wednesday off, Thursday was Thanksgiving. Wednesday night, I was sitting in a chair watching something, and I was running a temperature of 99.8 consistently for 2 days. And I felt all of a sudden, it's just like your body went whoosh. And I'm like, "Where's the thermometer?" Chrissy says, "Right here." I'm like, "Give me that thing." Took my temperature, 98.3, 98.4, instantly gone. Never ran a temperature again. So the nights were kind of weird because it was like flu-like symptoms for those 3 days. So you were achy and sore. But other than that, it was just like having the flu. I can usually shake the flu, like I said, 24 hours. And this one lasted for about 3.5 days. And then Thanksgiving, I felt awesome. Woke up Thanksgiving morning, had no taste and no smell. None. Yeah. I'm like, what a day for this. So then that's still going on. I still can't smell. My taste is starting to come back.
You can't now?
No. So if there's a propane leak in here, you guys are going to have to let me know. But that hasn't come back. So then I went to work on my own house by myself on Friday. I worked Saturday. Sunday morning I got up and I had a burning in my lungs. Like when you took a deep breath, there was a burning in the bottom of my lungs. So I said to myself, you know what? Maybe I pushed it too hard the last 2 days because it was cold, that cold week. So I stayed home Sunday, did some stuff in the house, organized guns actually, loaded clips, did whatever. And Monday morning I got up, went back to work because I'm working on my house, but so nobody's around me. And you get about 5 or 6 hours of decent work and then you're done. You're just exhausted. So that lasted for about 4 days and then I felt good and my guys called me and said, hey, we want to come back to work. So they came back. That was when the CDC had just said that you didn't have to quarantine for 14 days. They cut it back to 10. And that was like day 10. I'm like, okay, I'm counting this as day 10. Because we can start the day you got sick from anywhere, right? So then that was good. By that following Monday, I was back to 100%. Probably lost 10 to 12 pounds. Because I can tell you when you can't taste nothing, your desire to eat is gone. You don't even care about it. You just get up and you're like, okay, I know I have to eat because I have to keep my strength up. But there's nothing in that refrigerator that even appeals to you.
Let's be honest. You needed to drop a few pounds.
Oh,
anyway.
yeah. I might go get it again. But so my experience with COVID is it wasn't a big deal. It was a virus. It sucked. But, well.
It just goes to show how different it is with everyone. I mean, that's the weird thing about this is some people don't know they have it and others it kills quickly. And
yeah, Lee was one of the 99.568, whatever it is that made it.
Right? I talked to a guy last night. We actually had a party last night of COVID survivors when you called me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was lit right up. But that was a party of COVID survivors. Every person in that room, I have a picture, had COVID and survived it in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
And the one guy and his wife had it, and they never had any symptoms. They didn't even know they had it. Joe's dad is must be close to 80 and didn't feel good. So he went to the doctors and they COVID tested him and he had it. And he just didn't feel good. He was in his 80s. He had symptoms like me. So everybody else went and got tested. So Joe owns an auto parts distribution company, and everybody he works with tested positive. And nobody had any symptoms. They quarantined for 10 days. They did everything they were supposed to do, and nothing, not a sore throat, nothing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
my buddy Chris that went to Alaska with me, he got it. He just tested positive, but his litmus test to determine if he had it or not, he wasn't feeling good, and he started feeling like he didn't have the taste. So he ate a bunch of wasabi. He said, "Yep, I have it."
Oh, shit.
Well, Eric had it too. Eric had it, and I think he was telling me about similar symptoms to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just.
Yeah. But I have no underlying. I'm 54, and I feel fortunate because I'm very healthy, and I've never had any issues with my breathing. I can take off on a buck track. Once I get my second wind after that first mile, I can cruise all day long. That was the one thing that bothered me. Like, I thought in the back of my mind, if my breathing gets, hindered by this disease, there's a Chinaman that's not going to want to see me, I can tell you, because they can say that disease came from somebody that ate an uncooked
No
bat.
way. Man-made in a lab.
Somebody made this
otherwise.
disease to try and hurt people.
Yeah.
That's it. You're never going to convince me anything, because the weird thing about it is you can get up in the morning and have a great day, watch TV and be like, geez, I don't feel bad, but you shouldn't go outside and overexert yourself. And then you go to bed at night and it feels like, the flu symptoms, you always feel cold and shaky. It's a little extreme. It's kind of like somebody's trying to pull the bones out through your skin. That's the pain and the sweat. We would change the bed at night from sweat, sometimes twice. Chrissy would get up and say, I just can't sleep in the bed no more. We have to change it. So we were doing laundry every single day, bed sheets. And you would get up at night, and then at the
You
end
mean
of it,
Chrissy was doing laundry every single day?
yeah, well, I was helping.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to touch the washer or dryer, to tell you the truth. But anyways, that was a little extreme. But other than that, no, I would say if you get it, don't panic. I think a lot of people freak out. I know of stories that we've heard of friends that have had it that absolutely lost their shit. Like, they tried to get themselves into the emergency room, made a scene at the emergency room, like, I have COVID, I'm going to die, I need a bed, I need a ventilator on standby. It's like, relax.
Yeah. Those are the people that watch too much TV.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a cousin in Georgia who's a little bit older than me. He's in his early 50s, and he had it for 3 weeks.
Oh.
And he was really sick, and he's in good shape and stuff, but he never got tested for it. He just knew he had it. He called his doctor, and his doctor just told him on the phone what to do, and he just, what else are you going to do? They're not going to do anything for you.
I never got a call from the CDC. I guess you're supposed to.
Yeah.
The Veterans Administration, I have nothing bad to say about the VA. Nothing. I've been in the system for a little less than a year, and they call me about every month. And they called me and said, sorry, we can't schedule a colonoscopy because of COVID, which I don't mind. But how are you feeling? Would you like a Zoom meeting with a doctor? Da-da-da. I'm like, oh, actually, I'm just getting over COVID. And she's like, no. So she talked to me about it, wanted to know if I needed to come into the hospital. I'm like, nope, I'm good. If anything changes, I'll call you. So, but no call from the CDC. I got more calls from town officials like selectmen and people at Public Works. And
You mean really concerned about you and how you were doing?
No, really concerned. Yeah. Yeah, like people would come in and park at the top of the driveway while I was working on my house and stand 50 yards away and shout, hey, Liv, how you doing? And I'm like, good. Do you need anything? I'm like, well, actually, if you don't mind running to the builder supply for me. But I would call the builder supply, and Range Lakes Builder Supply is just awesome anyways. Everybody that works there is just awesome. But I would call them, and whether it was a large order or a small order, I'd say, hey, can you set this outside and I'll come get it? And they'd pack it up. I'd back my truck in, they'd set it on there with a forklift, and away I'd go.
Yep, good.
So I didn't lose too much.
Lee's sitting across the room from us, by the way.
He gave us both a kiss when he came in.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, we were so happy to see him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while. It's like the band got back together.
Yeah. I told a friend of mine from southern New Hampshire, who they're really just dealing with it down there. They don't go out without all the PPP stuff on. And I don't blame them. They're a young family. And people, the problem is some people just don't care. And I don't want to have anybody tell me what to do, wear a mask here, do this, do that. But at the same time, I have enough respect for other people that I don't want to be a dick.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyways, I told him when this all started, I'm like, Taylor, I wouldn't mind getting it, get it over with. I believe in herd immunity. And then I'm going to get a T-shirt that says, had it, survived it, F off. Yeah. Right. So for Christmas, he shows up and he's like, dude, I got your present. So I open it up and there's a black T-shirt with a COVID symbol on it that says, had it, survived it, F off. Well, I haven't put it on Facebook yet because what's going to come back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah,
Let her rip.
I'll send her then if you guys are okay with it. But so, that is it.
So I went down, and when I went on my little hunting trip in Mass, I stopped, and I saw my mother on the way back, an evening before New Year's evening, and gave her some gifts and had a little chat with her, She's 89 years old. She won't wear a mask.
Really?
Yeah, my sisters try to get it. She go, I hate that thing. She said, bothers me to wear it and stuff. And she goes, I don't care if I get it, But I mean, she's healthy and stuff, but she's just, I guess, old school enough that it don't bother her.
If that's what's going to take your mother, that's what's going to take your mother. And that's...
Yeah, but she has people shame her.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
she'll be out without one down there, there's people... You look at an old woman like that and you're going to shame her for not wearing it?
Right.
I said, Ma, just tell her you're 89 years old. You ain't worried about, you ain't scared of dying, What the heck?
I feel bad. I hadn't seen my mom in almost a year because of COVID, because she was just
That's terrible.
absolutely freaked out about it,
Yeah.
And my mother
Sad.
is 75 years old and beautiful and healthy as a horse. If you looked at her, she looks 50. And I'm like, Ma, you're good. You're good. Well, she's finally lightened up enough to let us come down for Christmas the other day.
Good.
And I found out a lot about my mom. First, she's a masked Nazi. Because if you walk into a store without one, she's going to let you know that you should have one on. And I'm like, Ma, you just, wear your stuff. Do your thing. Let the rest of the world spin.
Did she apologize to you?
For being a masked Nazi?
No, for dropping you on your head when you were young?
No, because for some reason, that kid that is 5 years old or 6 years old, maybe even all the way up to his teens, and then he's really not that good of a kid, and you're like, God, is he ever going to change? And then he comes home for the Marine Corps and starts his life, and all of a sudden, 35 years later, you're like, oh my God, you came the good one. Like, what happened?
Yeah.
You sucked as a kid. Yeah. You were a horrible teenager. Even as a young male adult, you wasn't awesome. Yeah. Here you are.
As awesome as you can be.
Yeah.
So. No, I look at the whole thing. I mean, I don't have any problem putting a mask on. I'm not one of these guys that, I'm not going to try to prove anything. It's the business owners. They don't want to do it. They don't want to be police.
No.
It's one of the big reasons why we made the decision not to open the restaurant this year was because I don't want to be the mask police and
I know.
what to do.
And we all know there's several places in Rangeley that are very light on their restrictions. They feel the same way. So if you run in, grab a cup of coffee with no mask, they're okay with it. But I also have friends that own places that absolutely, please don't come into my store without a mask. So I carry one in my pocket. If I want to go in that store, I put my mask on.
Yep.
I don't care.
Well,
Yep.
There's a lot worse things coming down the pipe that we're going to be told what to do and what not to do.
Those we will defy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'd
that's
tell
another
you,
subject.
Being as old as I am, I've had a few flus over the years,
Yeah.
Because it was almost like a drum roll in the fall. I was going to get something from the hunters. You start with, we used to go through 60 bear hunters, they're in and out of all the trucks.
Yeah.
And somebody was going to bring some creeping crud up,
Right.
I always got something every fall. Usually it was like a head cold. But a couple times I had some kind of flus that kicked the crap out of me. Well, I mean, like for months,
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had one year. It was the year Kev was teaching Kev to moose hunt there.
Yeah.
And we went up to zone 5, I guess. And first day of the hunt, we get up there, we was in camp. Was guiding for another guy back then, years ago. And we went out the first day, and it was just one of them days. It was warm and stuff and not a lot going on. No, I remember the first day was the day that he passed up a better than 50-incher because he asked me if there was any bigger ones around. And I said,
of course there is.
Yeah, sure there is. He goes, all right, I'll let that one go. I mean, it was we hadn't walked up this winter road quarter of a mile. Called this one out, and I could see one palm at a time, And I knew it was, but I couldn't see the palms very good because they laid back, and the ones that lay back are going to be big. But anyways, long story. By that afternoon, we were setting out there, and all of a sudden, I was getting the chills. And I pulled my hood up over my head, and I was like going fast. And I told Kev, I said, then I got a headache. I got a blistering headache. And it curled up in the fetal position. I just told Kev, I said, just watch this road, see if something comes out. And I laid in the ditch of that road in the fetal position, freezing to death with the chills. And I'm like, oh, what the hell? And it was just after bear season. So obviously I got it picked up something the last week of bear season. I couldn't drive back to camp. Kev didn't have no clue, never been up there in his life, had no clue where we were. So I'm in the back seat, and I'd open my head hurt so bad. I'd open my eyes, and I could just kept him on track. I'd go take a left up here, Kev. Got back to camp. I got out of the truck, and I crawled into the guide's tent, got in my sleeping bag, and all night and that was like I crawled in there at whatever we got back at, when that time of year is probably 7 o'clock. I'd have the chills. I'd wake up in a sweat. Wake up with the chills. Wake up with the sweat. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I felt okay. I'm like, geez, I think that broke, Fell back asleep. And the guys all got up about 4, an hour later, and they were stirring around, getting dressed and stuff, and went over to the cook tent there. I get up. I felt okay, And I went walking over into the cook tent to get some breakfast, and they're all, like, staring at me like they thought I was wouldn't make the night,
Right.
And Kev was all worried because he thought he was going to have to guide the hunter, and he didn't know where to go. So, anyways,
Yeah,
I
don't
ended
know.
up. It was like all week. It was like a bad head cold. After that, that broke out, and it was a bad head cold, and I got it in my throat, and I had that 2 months later in deer season. I had to carry cough drops in my pocket because every time if I just ate something, it would irritate my throat, and I'd have to put a cough drop in, or I'd just start coughing and, couldn't stop coughing. Same thing if I talked a little bit, it just got it irritated. And I had that for 2 months like that. So there's some bad viruses anyways, always has been, always will be. But
I don't think I can ever recall having the flu. I don't know that I've never had a flu shot.
When I got my flu
I
shots,
can't remember.
yeah, back when we got flu shots in the Marine Corps, you'd get it almost every year. I'm like, that shot don't amount to shit. But when I get out, I stopped taking them, and it was good. But I mean, normally, like the change in the weather, because I'm the guy that in October still wants to go outside in a light shirt,
yeah,
and you pay for it, so you get this little shit. But usually, sweat it out at night. I look forward to it. I just want to sweat, get it out.
yeah,
All right, Big Woods Medical
Yeah,
behind us.
over.
yeah.
How'd we
right.
do deer hunting?
How did I do? Well, if you'd have been around for a podcast all fall, you'd have known because we already talked about it.
I'm sure you sat. I'm sure you sat and listened to them all, right?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Probably thought he would to tell us what we were doing wrong without him.
Yeah.
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 No. I've
It
learned.
was way more fun when you were gone, though. Lee. Boy, did we have a good time. We sat in here and just laughed and chuckled.
And had all the Tito's to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Jesse was bringing them right over to us here.
Where is Jesse? I could use a drink here. Pretty soon.
Was it 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning?
No,
Yeah, that figures.
It's 11.
Okay.
Actually, you missed a lot of it because your client you're supposed to have the second week because he's from Australia couldn't
Yeah.
make it because they had a ban on travel from Australia, so he's coming this year. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, we had a pretty good season with all the guys. The guides, the team members had a good season. So Brian kicked it off with that 10-pointer, the President's Day. And Eric had a little mishap too, but we won't talk about that. That
Yeah, I
the
think it
next
was.
Sunday.
I would. It was for the number. We had a lot of hunters here. I mean, it was pretty slow for the number of hunters that we had. I mean, everyone ended up doing pretty good, but
But they see a lot and passed up a lot.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good sign. I see a lot of smaller buck tracks this year.
Yeah.
I did get
that was the theme.
I got 4 days early. Unfortunately, we got snow up there in that northwest corner, and it was just one truck after another, and it was combat hunting at its finest. But the deer tagging was way down, right, which is
Yeah.
good for the deer.
Well, not over. Well, overall for the state, it wasn't.
Right.
It was a record high, I think.
Yeah,
for
up
the state.
north it was down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some places by 50%. It was
Yeah.
about 25% here in Jackman. They said Allagash, I think, was about 50%. They told me the Pines Market was like 50% down.
Because there was no snow like in the village. You drive, out 20 miles in time. But
It was the same way here. The higher elevations had it, but it concentrated people, and there was places that I wanted to go that I never got to go really. I got one day in one spot, and it was about maybe an inch, barely an inch, and by afternoon it was gone then. But so who do we have get the deer? Oh, Lee Shan's got one the second week. Who got one the first week? Brian
Brian and his
Yeah, then his
client got
client.
one. Yeah,
But then
that was a
well,
good
I'm
week.
just-
Brian's had a good season.
Yeah, I
He
was
went
talking
down and
about.
shot one of Mass too.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
that.
I was talking about for the team members though, just to
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
get that straight. And then Lee Shan shot his the second week 9-pointer, and then you got yours in the same area,
Yep.
like his twin brother.
Yep.
And then Logan shot that one up north, was 220 something. His was only a 6-pointer though.
Was it only a 6? I
Yeah,
thought it was.
I don't think it had brow points. I looked at the picture because we got to have the score off. That's going to come up.
That's
with
the
him
next
and-
episode.
Yeah, him and Timmy, and then who
Timmy.
else?
Timmy.
Timmy shot 3. Shot 2 in New Hampshire, 1 with his bow and his rifle, and he shot a nice one in Maine. He was like 196, but I think that was the biggest racked ones the guy shot.
Timmy's
that was
getting his own fan club now.
Yeah, that was a smashing rack
Yeah.
too.
Beautiful
I
buck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Hey, let's go back to that one because I've been accused of pushing my clients down to shoot deer. Timmy actually did it, and there's no repercussions. I'm like, wait a minute. You had a client. Well, it wasn't technically a client.
it wasn't a Big Woods client.
No, it wasn't a Big Woods client. No. And I'm like, so this deer stands up, and this guy's behind you. So, and you had a gun. Yeah.
I'm glad Lee's the one, Eric, because I don't know anything about it. So I'm glad Lee's airing it. I haven't.
Oh, you haven't
it
heard?
fully. No.
Oh.
It was he told me it was his buddy from Texas.
It was a friend of theirs that his wife went to school with.
If it's a friend, you push him down to shoot it.
Yeah. No, it was a friend of theirs. I know.
Yeah.
I just said, so you technically pushed your client out of the way and shot a deer.
Yeah.
Well, no, he said. It didn't happen that way. But anyways, yeah, that was a beauty.
I probably would have pushed someone down too for that one.
Yeah.
Who
Just
else?
a beauty.
Who else? Oh, Roger shot one muzzleloaders. He guided
Yeah.
all 4 weeks. You got yours muzzleloader, then Roger got his
Yeah, he
like
got his the day after
the
mine.
day after. Nice 10-pointer.
Yeah.
And then Ben shot one this last week down in Massachusetts. A nice one. Would have been an 8. I think 1 point was broke off, but a good sized buck for down there. He thought it would still weigh 175, 80. Went down the Berkshires. Him and Roger drove down. I was down there for a few days, and we met up, kind of hunted together down that country there. And I see one great big one down there, and I could not get a whack at it. And I saw quite a few deer, but I was just trying. When I went down, I said, I'm not shooting nothing unless it's a real, good racker or something there.
Yeah.
And I did see one that I would have shot, but I just, he took a couple bounds down in the kind of thick stuff and come up. I didn't realize it, but he come up on the knoll and stopped, but I didn't know. I couldn't see the horns. I didn't realize it was him because there was a couple other deer there, but just kind of a funny situation. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, the guys had a pretty good season. Did we miss anybody? Jeez,
Don't want to forget about Nick and Jeff. Nick Campagna shot 2 bucks, one in Vermont and one in New Hampshire. And Jeff Parody shot a real nice one also.
I think that's all of them, but pretty good showing.
Yeah.
For the way the conditions were and stuff up. Hal here, and I just want to take a minute to talk a little bit about Onyx. Been using it now for about a year, deer hunting, moose hunting, turkey hunting, all of that, and really come to really like it. I like the satellite imagery mainly because I can locate hidden fields, for turkey hunting, the bogs for moose hunting. You can tell the different stage of cuts up here in the big woods for deer, whether it's clear cuts, select cuts, see the skid roads, and it's really a big help I found coming out at night. It's can really tell you like the easiest way to get out, if you got a couple miles, a couple hours to walk out. And so anyways, got the app on my phone, got the chip in my GPS, and I'm good to go. So not only that, it's used by 4,600 game wardens across the country, which is pretty incredible, and Bureau of Land Management, Forest Service, wildlife biologists, and all that. They all use it, so I guess it's something you ought to be using too. So anyways, go to onx.com and you punch in the promo code BWB, and you're going to get a 20% discount. Good hunting. Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. and it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is there's forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Wood stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you're on there.
That last storm we got there, of course, timing, we went with no snow for a good portion of the season. And then the night that muzzleloader ended up here, we get got
a foot of snow.
We get all that snow. Rick shot and missed a really big one, he
said. That's right, too, yeah. He shot a couple nice ones out Midwest or something where he's hunting.
Yeah, Nebraska, I think he shot one. And
then
he's out somewhere right now, I think.
Yeah, they went, I think, Ohio or something.
Yeah.
They went with Matt Clemens and them. But so, yes, and then I just got a picture last week from the game warden that I sent the picture to Rick, and he said it was the one he shot at. The coyotes killed it here, down pretty much right near where he shot at it anyways. It was kind of his loop he was hanging around in, and beautiful big buck. He thought it still weighed 230 when he saw it then, wow. But he said it was a big one, but had a kind of a unique rack. The points, the tips of the beams crossed a little bit. They one stuck out more than the other, and it was almost tip to tip. Yeah,
wow.
It was a 9-pointer.
And like you were going to check and see, but we heard there's a possibility that might have been hit by a car and then ran off. We're not quite sure. I think you're going to check with Tenny and see.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, would be nice if that was the case.
Yeah, because I couldn't figure out, because it wasn't deep snow. We had that snow we got kind of settled down. We had a little bit more, and then some sleet and stuff, and it really had settled. There weren't more than 6 or 8 inches of snow anyway. And I mean, the deer been getting around. I was surprised that the coyotes had killed that buck, because usually when they got their horns, the coyotes, since they're not really in packs anyways, it's usually only 1 or 2 we find tracks of when we're hunting. But yeah, it's too bad a nice big buck like that got coyotes got. But yeah, if it had been hit, it would probably explain it a little bit better.
It was that storm was funny too. It was so pockets of good snow. Like at my house, I only got a couple inches, but 2 miles away they got 8 inches, and but where I was at least a foot. I mean, I was on the northern end of the southern zone,
right,
and the snow was almost too much. It was one of those. I mean, all the trees were bent right over. You couldn't hardly see anything in there.
Yeah, well, all that's gone now. Yeah, we're sitting here looking out at the lakes froze over, but there's barely a lick of snow, a few crusty spots here and there, but we had them 2 days of warm weather, and it's like starting over again now, huh?
Yeah. And there's no frost, really, in the ground.
Yeah. It's good for the deer, though. It's crazy good for the deer, because they really, there wasn't even enough snow to get many of them migrating. I put 3 trail cameras out on the 3 main migration trails on the north side of town, and one of them is way back, it's, I don't know, 10, 11 miles from town. The other one's in the middle, and the other one's closer, but I went and looked at 2 of them yesterday, because they only had 8 gig SD cards in them, and I had it set for video and photo, and I said, that's going to burn that up probably if a bunch of deer come down. So I went and downloaded them in my computer and formatted them and put them back, and I went back and checked them, and there really hadn't been a real lot of deer come down through. I think I got on one. Most of them, it was funny, they came in one day on the 14th of November. I think probably 25 deer probably came down by that day. And then maybe a week later, a bunch of them were going back. At least whatever came down, at least half of them went back up the trail the other way. And that was at the camera that was about 6 miles out from town. And there was no bucks in that one. It was all does and lambs. And then the one that was way out, about 10, 11 miles, that had fewer deer come down, but they come doe group. Some of them, there was 4 or 5 at a time. I would guess altogether there might have been 25 deer come down that trail, maybe 30, and then some of them went back. And but on that one there was 3 bucks, a spike, a little 6, and then a real big one that I looked like it was related to old Brutus, and it was, really as them bucks travel, not a long way from where I'd shot that buck and picked it up. But yeah, it wasn't. I think the deer are still back where they were. Or a lot of them. So they can feed on the ground now. They can get them ferns and all that stuff on the ground. So this is a real good start to the winter for them. And I'm sure the bucks are pretty much back in shape. And
yeah, I've been meaning to stop in and see Gordon and see how many are coming. I bet there's not too many.
No,
I wouldn't think.
I know about. Well, it was the week before. It was a week after muzzleloader season, I think. It was the middle of the month sometime. When we had that powdery snow, me and Jason went coyote hunting one day, and the deer were still way out from town on the east side, and we couldn't find a track to run. There was a few tracks that were made in the night, but they were all in where Eugene puts his bait from his meat cutting bait in the pit. Too many tracks to try to figure it out, but the deer were still out and way away from town, and wasn't much for coyote sign. So,
thinking of something I wanted to talk about with the coyotes and stuff, dead deer, is when I shot my buck, I picked the track up and I didn't go very far. I mean, it was sometimes you just get lucky when you pick the track up close to him, which is what happened. I went down into a hemlock bottom there, and I didn't think it was a big one, but I thought it was a buck just the way he's walking and everything. So I started following it, and I probably only went, not far, 150 yards or something, maybe a couple hundred yards. I don't know. It wasn't very far.
You know what I say? Better be lucky than good.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked over to my right, and all I could see, because the way that the snow was, you couldn't see any distance at all. Everything was just covered up. Everything was bent over, and I could just see the face of a deer looking at me close, 15, 20 yards. But I couldn't see what it was. So I kind of got up my tiptoes, and I could finally, looking through my scope, I could see the top of one tine, and it looked like it was kind of out, beyond the ear. So I lowered down, and it, in those situations, you're kind of skeptical whether the bullet's even going to make it in there or not, but I could see enough outline there of the body where I thought the shoulder was, so I fired. The deer bolted and kind of ran right by me about 10 yards away, and I walked over there thinking there was going to be a giant trail of blood, or hoping there was, and there was nothing. I mean, how blood is on snow. I mean, you see a speck. There was nothing, so I'm like, great, here we go again. So I walk over to where he was standing, and there's about a 2.5-inch popple with a hole right through it, just blown to bits. It cut the tree right in half. And I just automatically, I was like, well, missed that one. I'll just get back on him here in a little bit, and had the whole day. So I gave him a little bit and started tracking again, and followed down the running track. And I probably went 100, 120 yards, something like that. And I got down to the brook, and I look across the brook, and the deer's laying there dead. And, it got me thinking about, and it hit him right in the shoulder, it went right through that tree. He was close enough to it. And you've talked about that before too, Hal, which is, if it's further away, obviously,
yeah.
If they're right behind it, you can get it, it'll still get in there and do some damage, which it hit him right in the shoulder and killed him. But not a drop of blood until he tried jumping up the bank on the other side of the brook. And it got me thinking, how many deer go off and die? Yep. I mean, you got to figure probably close to half, you would think, of people, because when people shoot, if it's anywhere close to close range, it's hard to imagine you would completely miss it.
Right.
That often. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine, Jeremy, and I'm telling him the story about what happened with mine, and he's like, I had the exact same thing happen this year. He shot a doe down in southern Maine, and had no blood at all. They ended up, I guess there was a little bit, a couple specks they eventually found, but he thought he completely missed it, and they just stumbled upon it and found it. And, we had the benefit of snow a lot of the time to help us with that, but where you're hunting with no snow, the number of deer that are killed by,
oh yeah,
no sign, I think is way higher than what people think.
Well, what happens with a muzzle loader is most of the time you don't get an exit wound. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they fill up inside. They can run that 100 yards in 3 seconds.
Right.
The blood doesn't have a time to fill up, but they fill up inside and drop dead before the blood comes out. Usually that's what happens. And a lot of people just don't look enough either. You know what I mean? They just assume they missed and go look for another one. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
You know, they do the same thing with moose. People don't look enough for them once they shoot. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and so I guess that's the message is if, even if you think you missed clean, give it an hour or 2 hours of looking at least.
Oh, yeah.
And grid search and it's just, and with mine, I mean, looking at it, you'd think, oh, well, look, there's a tree it hit. It's, and obviously with snow, it makes it a little bit different, but I think it's a common theme.
Yep. Got to put your time. You owe it to the animal to, try to get them, try to find them. If you don't, you go shoot another one. Now you've killed 2 deer,
So something we talked about, I think, quite a bit during the season, and we talked about it recently, is big bucks and
don't we always talk about big bucks?
We try to, but the lack of big bucks and whether we have an issue with big and I mean, looking at the numbers and what we saw in the woods, even though we didn't have a lot of snow to look at, it was a lot harder to find a big buck track this year.
4 days, 40-something miles in 4 days of just cruising, and I found one buck track that was 2 days old, had 2 inches of snow in it, that I would have followed. Other than that, numerous small ones, but never. And this is a spot where I know last year I left at least 2 big bucks in there, in this one mountain. And you think I could find a track? It was early because we had the snow early, but even later on, nothing big came out of there.
For the listeners, we got to qualify the big buck track, though, because usually we're looking for a track of those bucks that are, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old that have the biggest tracks, But I saw lots of tracks that were nice buck tracks, but, around 200, maybe from 180 to 200, or maybe I saw lots of them tracks. But those big old bucks, yes, there was
those ones that get you all excited and just you can't lose them in a group of other tracks. Those ones.
Right. There was definitely less of them, and my opinion on that is the 2 years before this past season, we had snow the whole season, and there was a lot of those big ones shot, lots of them. Because we had the last 2 years here in Jackman, there was 25 or 30 over 200 shot. And that's a lot, big bucks taken out of an area. So, and then they were coming down to the yards, and a lot of them got picked off on the migration trails and around town last 2 years. So they don't go back anymore. They were killed downtown, but they ain't from town,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the same everywhere. I was talking to a guy up in the Allagash there, said the same thing. There's an old fella that's been feeding them up there for years, I guess, and he usually has 10 or 15 nice big bucks there. He said last winter there was 2.
No kidding.
2, that's all there was last winter. But them guys sit there on every one of them migration trails, and one guy will shoot one, and somebody else takes his spot. They sit right in the truck and shoot them crossing them roads up there in the Allagash, and you can't, it ain't sustainable to do that. But the same guys that'll do that are the ones that piss and moan the next year because they can't find a good buck. Yeah. Leave the deer alone around town, just get out and hunt for them. And I know people think, well, if they ain't any out there, well, there is, because the big ones don't all come. There's still some big ones out and about,
They're still out. I mean, I've been doing quite a bit of shed hunting lately, and there's a lot of bucks out in the
this year
right
there
now.
is. But I'm talking about when they're all migrating. Everybody just figures they're all come to town, and there ain't no deal left. But
those big ones don't come to town a lot anyway.
I shot my Brutus buck heading the other way. He was 10 miles from town, and he was headed towards Canada. You know what I mean? He weren't going to come to town to yard up, and a lot of them don't anyways. Those are the ones that a lot of times just hole up some mountain somewhere or something way away and spend the winter by themselves. But
yeah, I think early on, we were kind of looking at it like last year early on, the big ones weren't moving yet. Well, then they did, because last year I can say, from what I saw, it was a lot easier to find a big buck track last year.
Oh, yeah.
And so something definitely happened. I mean, I don't, it doesn't seem like there was any reason that they would have any kind of die off from natural conditions.
They had a good winter, but part of it too was a lot of people they crowded into where there was some snow at times, so there was a lot of places that didn't get hunted where there was big bucks, but they didn't get hunted. I know, like I told you, I went one day there, and the snow had just come later in the night, and we just hoped to pick up a track, and we did. That was the beginning of muzzleloader season. I had Jerry there as guiding, and we found a good track, like about a 200-pounder. So we obviously took it, and we run across another one about the same size. But the buck sign was there, the signpost, but we just never had a chance. The snow melted off, but I didn't give it a good test. But I know in that country, them big bucks, nobody hunts there. Them big bucks are there somewhere. And I was hoping to have time to, have the snow to hunt on. So a lot of the places, the big bucks got saved just because there wasn't snow,
Yep. Yeah, it was limited to where you could track.
For sure. Yeah. But there was a couple places where, one place I hunt a mountain at, and I never went there last year. But 2 years ago, and 2 and 3 years ago, I hunted there a bit, and I could pick up a big one every single day up there. But I ended up hunting it more this year because it's one of the places there was snow, and there was only a couple big ones on that whole mountain, 2 or 3 big ones, and you'd be lucky to find one in one day to find a track, a big track.
How about that one? It was all over on Facebook. I know you saw it, Hal. I don't know if you saw it, Lee. It was a big, giant, wide, just an unbelievable buck. You must have saw that.
Where did it come from, Maine?
Yeah, it was in Maine. Yeah.
I probably did, but I can't picture it.
It was like, I don't remember what the spread was. It looked like it was 30 inches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was so big. I wanted to reach out to the guy and talk to him and see where, that buck couldn't like it was just so big you can't imagine it going in any kind of thick area.
Right.
It'd be a hassle.
Yeah.
I know they can turn
They
but just an unbelievable buck. One of the coolest ones I've ever seen shot in Maine.
They're out there.
Massive.
That's the mystique of it.
Yeah.
And up here, most of them die of old age. Yeah.
But some beautiful bucks killed this year. Always is. Of course, I think it's so easy for everyone to put their bucks out there. Everyone gets to see what's being killed, and the majority of them, because everyone's excited when they kill their monster rack. They put it out there, and I think a lot of people look at it and they feel like, well, man, everyone else is killing big bucks. I can't find a big buck, but you got to think about how many people are out there hunting and how few. It's just that it's in your face, so you think that they're everywhere. But
well, the success rate is still 7%, right? Average.
I think overall it's more than that.
It ain't up north.
No, but I thought it was.
No, it's
It's about 20, isn't it? 15 or 20?
It's 15. Statewide, it's 15, and that's counting does. They give does out like candy down below.
Right.
And it's 15%. And I would say it's got to be probably, I don't think it's any more than 5% in the northern half of the state.
Yep.
Yeah, it can't be any more than that. So you think about that, it's one out of every 20 hunters shooting a buck,
Yeah. And some good hunters. There's a lot of good hunters out there,
Well, and
a lot of good hunters out there.
I'll tell you what skews that 5%. Say there's a 5% success rate in northern Maine, in the big woods. Say it's 5%. Well, out of that, probably only 20% of the hunters are probably responsible for 80% of them.
Right.
So that's out of that 5%, 4% of them are shot by 20% of the hunters. The guys that get them year after year.
Right.
That's too much math for me.
Well, it might be.
You think it's that low, 5%?
Oh, yeah.
I thought at one time we talked about it, and it was might even been a deer biologist came up with that number, about 7%. I thought, but 5 is
I
pretty
wouldn't.
close.
Do you know Troy Fry?
Yeah. He's the one that always posts the figures, but that's statewide stuff, you know.
No, I know, but it's interesting. He does a lot of breakdowns on there.
Yeah.
It's good stuff to read, you know, just all the comparison. He does a lot of it.
Well, when they were talking, I see something that come from Fish and Wildlife here. I can't remember. It was the statistics about northern Maine, because they were talking about, everybody knew northern Maine, the deer kill was down. Zone 5, the state had broken it down by zones. There was 32 deer shot in Zone 5. 32 deer in the whole Zone 5.
Wow, that's a lot of land.
Yeah. And, you know, them are probably shot around, Zone 5 would be like west of the Route 11 corridor, so from Patton and down through Oxbow, you know, to Portage or something like that kind of country there. And then into the west to the Allagash River. 32 deer. You think about that.
I know a guy that has a 10 up there, and he said it was almost impossible to find a deer track. And he blamed it on, and I haven't been over through there to see it, but he said the cutting over there in the last 2 years has been out of control.
Oh, yeah.
Just flattening everything. And that's kind of where he was going with it, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know. But
well, there's no deer yards anymore there. There used to be in Zone 5 that Allagash River was a deer yard for miles upon miles upon miles. The old guy that used to fly, Jack McPhee, used to fly for the lynx studies and stuff from way, way, way back. I flew with him, and he told me it was nothing to fly up the Allagash River in the wintertime and count 100 deer on the river.
Really?
And when I flew with him, this was even years ago. This was probably damn near 20 years ago, 18, 20 years ago. There was still some deer there, he said, but he said you'd be lucky now to fly the whole river and see 10.
Really?
And then there's only thing left there is that 500-foot strip. It's the waterway.
Right.
So there's 500 feet of woods on each side of the river. And them coyotes run the river. You know, any deer that try to stay there has got it rough.
Oh, yeah.
And
a lot of that gets blown down.
Yeah.
As soon as they
it
clean
creates
that up.
feed,
Yeah,
but
right.
still the coyotes that run the river, if the deer can only get 500 feet from the river.
Right.
But them deer all started to go now. They all go to Oxbow and Portage. They migrate right out of there to the east, out to the towns, like
Right.
they do most everywhere.
Yeah.
There's another deer yard in 5 it's down by Libby's camps there, and they actually Matt Libby had bought, I think, 500 acres at one time to kind of save that part of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a huge deer yard, but it's a deer yard, and then there's part of that goes back almost to the T-Loss Road, you know. I think it's a snake pond in there and down along the outlet of T-Loss and all of that. I don't know what it is. I'm not over there, but there's some deer there. Hey, everyone. Hal here. Just wanted to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own or buy your Big Woods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the Big Woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it. So get on there and check it out.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
It's a lot of land with no deer, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when we moose hunting up in that north country, I mean, you're lucky to see an old dried up deer track.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain parts, even in Zone 1, I mean, all the deer, you know, they're around the fringes. The Allagash has got a good population, but other than that, down like the west side, St. Pompeel, some guys still hunt there, but you got to be pretty close to the border because those go over into Canada in the farm country. Mm-hmm. We did see one buck up there. We was talking about it. I was guiding the hunter the second season up there. We saw one deer track in a gravel road, kind of an old road. It's the only deer track we saw. And we saw, I shouldn't say that. We couldn't see the tracks, but walk in the woods, and we walked all day moose hunting, and we saw maybe 2 piles of deer droppings.
No kidding.
Walking all in good-looking deer country too. Some of it, that was wooded pretty good. And then one day coming back to camp, we saw a buck crossing the road, like a 2-year-old buck run across the road in front of us. We were all like shocked. We saw a deer, But that was within a couple of miles of the border,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty rough country up in there.
Too bad.
Yeah. Any of them that I think try to stay, if a few, along them rivers and stuff where it's thick, but like it's the same area that was up along the river that St. John's there. When me and Nick went up a couple of years ago to scout for moose, we found that buck skull in the woods, and we see where there was a hare, the coyotes had killed 2 in there. One was a half of an 8. It was there in the winter because it shed half of it, and the other half we found the skull too. And there was 2 piles of bones and hair right in this little real dark, thick place. But I don't know. It was that first year we got all that snow and got it in November. I don't know if they got stuck there and they couldn't make it down the river. They must migrate them rivers because some of them branches of the rivers come from Canada. They must file up those to get there or something. But yep. So anyway.
Looking at the grass in the yard out here, it's easy on them right now, so I guess that's a positive.
Yeah.
Not too good for our sledding, huh, Lee?
Nope.
We're going to do a snowmobile segment now, Hal. Lee and I have been talking about it. The tribe outvoted you, and we're going to do a snowmobile.
I missed the meeting, but
Yeah. Well, at least
I like this flyby.
Yeah. At least Joe, you finally woke up and bought a real snowmobile.
Yeah, I did. I broke down and bought a new sled, so it's a skidoo.
Finally realized he didn't need to have a big mountain sled. And
oh, no, I still have
around.
that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I kept my mountain sled. I just
yeah.
got rid of all the old nice vintage stuff I have. Well, not all of it, but some of it.
Well, you won't be riding that mountain sled no more.
Probably not. No, turned over to the dark side and got a Tundra with a 600 Ace in it.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Yeah,
Go get your groceries, Grandpa.
Got him a putt-putt machine like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want something that's got good fuel economy and I don't have to work on all the time. I guess that does make me old.
Hey, we're getting some PPP money, right?
Yeah.
Is that what they even call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. My $600 is going into the gas tank.
Yeah.
Hey, it's back into the economy, right?
Yeah.
That's what they want.
No, I want them to keep it, shove it where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, no kidding.
I want.
$600.
I don't get. Yeah, I don't. For some reason,
Are we going
I don't
there?
get
Are we
that.
going there?
No,
No,
we're
we
not
better
going
not.
there. No.
They
No,
won't
we
let
gotta
me
know.
talk about politics.
Yeah.
Guys and gals
I get
out
too
there.
much hate mail about Lee when we get going that way.
Yeah.
You get hate mail about Lee anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Right. What I don't understand is why you would listen to a podcast that you know you're going to disagree with just to send a stupid text message voicing your opinion, which we really don't care about. So turn it off. If you're sitting here writing shit down to argue with us about, shut me off.
Yeah.
I'm down with that, Lee.
Yeah. I'm
agree
telling you,
100%.
if this year hasn't opened the eyes of a lot of people, and I don't care if you're left or right, I really don't, because I can party with the best of them. I don't care. I don't always throw my opinion out there. I feel that we have a little bit of a stage here, and that people that are like-minded are going to listen to us, and that's what I want. So, but this year has showed me that anybody that thinks anybody in that Virginia vicinity really gives 2 shits about us.
100%.
Got rocks in their head because there was only 6 people in Congress that didn't sign that bill.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I've called my representatives and left messages and just, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, you mean you don't want to fund Botswana with
And I don't need the
$2
money.
billion?
Give my money to somebody else.
Right.
If you want to help me out, give me a tax break next year. Say, all right, we're not going to give you $2,000 cash because you had an okay year, but we're going to give you a $2,000 tax credit next year. Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
If we got the money. If we don't. But if you want to send what was one of them? $500 million to South America to fund their upcoming democracy. What they're doing is they're building an army.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but I usually don't send my enemies money.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other one was Pakistan.
We're rolling now. Let's get on with this.
Gender
Hey,
studies.
Jess, bring us some Tito's. We're going.
Yeah, gender studies in Pakistan. Now, Pakistan has got enough money to make their own nuclear weapons,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but they can't fund their own gender studies.
Right. It just bothers me because they're just trying to roll it all into one bill with one signature on it. Cut the COVID as a separate bill because they'll sign that tomorrow
It should
for
be
$900 billion.
That's right. There shouldn't be
Right, but
anything else in that.
But
Not
the
a
extra, the extra 1.7 trillion or 2.4 trillion, whatever the actual number is, we'll probably never know.
yeah,
That goes to places that don't even. Do you know what we could do with another $104 trillion in the U.S. economy in January, February, and March? Crazy. So
Yeah.
I don't care, left swinging, right swinging, down the middle, whatever you are. You gotta be a little bit butthurt.
the
about
answer
the
to
whole
that,
thing.
the way to solve that whole problem in Washington is term limits.
Oh yeah.
See, they get in there and they get changed. You know what I mean? Because they're forced to because they don't.
Yeah, because they send a hooker to your hotel room and then they
Yeah.
hold it against you.
Yeah, and then you don't get on the committees you want. It's you call it playing politics. That's all it is. But if they know they're only going there to represent you for 2 terms,
Right.
they're probably going to try a little harder
Yeah.
instead of trying to just pad their own pockets.
It is
I think
most
it's all
certainly a
dirty.
screwed up system.
Oh. it's just
And
dirty. Those
anyone
people
that
are
thinks,
dirty.
anyone that believes that it's on the up and up is a friggin' idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I don't, we don't need to get too much. I'm getting wound up now just thinking about it.
Joe's starting
Because
to
I'm
shake.
telling you.
He's shaking.
It is.
I should have called you at 6:00 this morning to let you get this out because when we talk on the phone, it gets pretty radical. But it's and like I said, I really don't care left, right. I feel bad for my friends that believe everything the local news tells them.
Yeah.
And it's like, so here I am with and I hate to bring her up again, but my wonderful mother, because I love her dearly, and I promised my dad on his deathbed I would take care of her. But she has become a little left-leaning since retirement. And she's telling me this stuff. So me being me, I pick up my iPad and I start to Google it. And I'm like, Ma, that's not right. Well, where are you getting that? So I show her the website where I find the actual information. She hands me back my my iPod and says, I don't see any fact check on there. And I'm like, what? She goes, that might not be a reliable source. And I'm like, you know what? You're right, because I don't believe half of what I hear,
Right.
left-leaning or right-leaning, because everybody can bold-face lie today. And it's just the words. It's how you say the words. Are you lying? Nope, it's your interpretation. So there's no lying anymore. It's your interpretation, right?
Yeah, my parents are just the opposite. They think I'm liberal now because I don't voice my opinion all the time, and I've always been pretty vocal with how I feel about things politically, and we've talked about it a lot here. And we don't need to turn into a political show, but I'm tired of it. I'm not going to hold back. If people don't want to listen to it, and it's just deer hunting, and we can't talk politics, just go somewhere else, I guess. No. I don't mean to sound. I appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast, but it is to a point now where anyone that thinks that politicians that are in charge right now are out for our best interest is delusional.
And when I say it's a year of reckoning for me was, so here I am, I wake up every day and I try to make my parents proud of me. I've done it. My father's been gone for 6 years and I still do it. I look up at the sky some days and say, is this enough? But I call it a people pleaser. My clients come before me. My employees come before me. And I'm 54 years old. And I honestly, if you said, let's go track a big buck tomorrow, I couldn't do it. I have commitments. I have people that count on me every single day. So here I am at this midlife crisis thinking, okay, I've done this for 30 years. At what point is enough enough? And this year, with everything that's gone on with COVID and how people react and giving opinions, I think it's time for me. You know what I mean? I'm a conservative-minded person who saved my money my entire life. I don't have any debt. I can't go buy a new truck because I have no credit. Not bad credit. I have no credit. So I've sacrificed things so that I didn't have to live week to week. I'm building myself my dream home, and maybe it's time. It's just time to start worrying about yourself. And there's got to be hundreds and thousands of men and women out there that listen to this that feel the exact same way. At what point do we stop? Now, they're telling me I can't collect my Social Security till I'm 67 years old. Okay, that's fine. But as a conservative-minded person who saved my money, I could almost pull it off right now. Because you really think about what you need to spend. If you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a truck payment, you don't have a bunch of crap, what do you really need to get by? I know people that live a nice life on $25,000 a year. Nice life. So that's kind of where I'm at now. So the future holds, I hope, a lot of different things. But with the way the world's going, I some days don't feel like anybody cares.
The feedback we get, people enjoy listening because it's authentic. And if we're going to be authentic,
right,
we got to be able to talk about how we feel about things. And so I think, we don't need to focus on it. We don't need to make it. But where we're at right now as a country is different than it's different now.
I think it's different every generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably true. But I mean,
but it's at a boiling point now.
You look at how things are, and the mask thing. I know it's controversial. I know that a lot of people believe in their heart. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm an idiot because I feel okay walking around without one. But that's my choice. And I respect everyone else. If I'm in a public place and I don't have a mask, I don't get close to people. I don't talk around them. I respect people's space, but respect my opinion too and my freedom. And, it's just, I guess, built up because everything has been happening. And
well, I just feel bad because we are the silent majority, and I'm part of a thread from guys out west that are just absolutely losing their shit. But I think what they're creating is the silent majority has been silent so long, and now you watch the news and you feel like you're outcast, like nobody thinks like I do. You know what I mean? And you really got to dig for any conservative news. Even Fox is like going to the other side.
Well, that's the problem. People hinge on everything the news media says, and they got to understand that the news media ain't looking out for us.
Right.
And I boil it down to one thing, and people have drifted so far away from the Constitution and what it says, they've been just programmed to think that the government needs to take care of them in every way. They always look, people now, when something happens, they look to the government, and that's the wrong place to look because they ain't going to help you. I'll tell you right now, Ronald Reagan, remember he said the worst words you can hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And they shouldn't be. I mean,
I know, but look at people's life choices. Look at the food lines in California. Even here in Maine, they show these vehicles in this food line to get boxes of food. And there's Cadillac Escalades rolling on 20s down the road. And yeah, you can afford it, but now you need food. You need help. That's a poor life choice. Don't make it my problem.
It's the same thing with the student loans. They're on the student loan, paying off student loans. You took a loan, you pay it off. It's simple as that. That's your first life lesson. If you borrow money, you pay it back.
I want $10,000. If you're going to pay off Jimmy's $10,000 student loan, send me a check. I went to school, the school of hard knocks, the last 35 years. So
And the other part too is talking like this, people think that we don't care about other people. I will help anyone that I can. I think that conservatives are very compassionate and give and look, I don't want to break it down left or right because, like you said earlier, Lee, I don't hold it against anyone. I believe everyone's got their beliefs and they're right, and I respect that 100%. But don't make it like just because we feel like we don't want to piss everything away that we don't want to give or help, because
I think we're the most giving people.
Well, that's
as a nation we are.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I give a lot of money to different people, for different things.
Your choice.
My choice. I never say nothing about it. I just help people when I can. And that's the difference. If everybody did that, the government wouldn't. The government wants, the politicians want you relying on them because they want your vote.
Hogs
period.
at the trough.
And that's it. They want your vote. And I wish people, I'm going to end this whole thing right here. If people would just start studying the Constitution and understand what it says and why we have one in the Bill of Rights, it would make it simple. But they don't teach it in school no more, so people are ignorant to it. And really, the government was formed for the common defense of the country, period. Not to do anything else.
That's all we
That's
should
right.
pay him to do. That's
That's
all
right.
we
The
should pay him
common
to do.
defense of the country, and that's why it was formed, and it's turned into something it's not. So we need to just get back to the Constitution. Everything would settle right out pretty good.
Yep. So speaking of the Second Amendment, everyone should go out and get their 760s and 7600s. Oh, that's right. You can't get one anymore.
Yeah.
How about ammo? Try getting ammo, huh? I see that thing that Remington put out the other day. The
That was
guy's
good.
like, you can listen to anything you want online, but I'm going to give you a tour of the factory. We are making ammunition as fast as we possibly can.
Yeah, especially because, well, it's new owners.
Oh, really?
You see, before the problem was, a little history lesson here I know something about. See, Remington's been through those two bankruptcies. And the first one was, it took, the banks took the company in lieu of they took the equity in lieu of the debt. That was the bankruptcy. And I knew when that happened, because I was working there then, that wasn't going to work because banks don't want to own a gun company, right? That's pretty simple. That's common sense. And I knew something else was had to happen because that wasn't going to work. And I figured they would start selling off the different entities because Remington became the owner of, Marlin, Bushmaster, Barnes Ammo, DPMS, a lot of companies. And I figured that would be the simple way to do it. Made sense, but they didn't do it. So they ended up in the second bankruptcy, this past year, and they settled it out with an auction to do just that. But Vista Outdoors bought the ammo. So Remington Ammo is actually separate from Remington Firearms now.
Oh, nice.
So Vista, which owns Federal and some other ammo brands, I think that gives them like 80% of the ammo market.
Oh, wow.
But what happened before, not just with the ammo, but with the Remington guns and stuff, is they weren't paying the bills. So they weren't paying the suppliers, so they couldn't get steel to make guns and stuff. And that's how it spirals. Any company, that's how it spirals downhill, right? But the new owners now, since it broke up, it's easier to manage it in smaller pieces. So another, a capital investment company bought Remington Firearms. Ruger bought Marlin. Sierra Bullets bought Barnes Bullets. You see, so that's going to help the whole situation.
Right.
It was an excellent video that you're talking about.
Yeah, it was good. What did
You
say?
could tell the frustration with the guy.
Yeah, 7 million new gun owners since March.
Yeah.
7 million.
It's just numbers.
I think that's a conservative number.
Yeah. And they need ammo.
Yeah.
And this happened, if you remember, there was a big run on ammo, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And remember when 22 ammo, nobody could get it?
Yeah.
Everybody was bitching about the 22 ammo, and people were hoarding it, and they'd go buy a case and then resell it and double the money on it and all that. It wasn't anything to do. They was always crabbing at the companies. I was doing shows for Remington then when I worked for them, and everybody'd run up to us to bend our ear about how come you ain't making 22 ammo, and I go, they haven't slowed down a bit. They never slowed down. They made the same amount of ammo. It's just people grabbed it,
Yeah.
It warms my heart when I see the gun sales and the ammo sales. Because people are exercising their right to defend themselves and to have it, and that's what it's about.
It's gotta drive the nail home when people in that Virginia area look at the numbers and say, we're really going to go try and take these people's guns.
Well, if one thing
doesn't sound like a great idea to me,
Well, what happened this summer was people watched on TV all the looting and rioting and stuff, and they finally realized these people want to defund the police and stuff. We're going to have to protect ourselves. Yeah. Now, why they didn't think about that years ago. I don't know, but
Well, that's
people are just programmed. I think people always were programmed to think the police would protect you, but that's part of government protecting you, right? I never thought the police was going to protect me.
I've never lived my life that way.
No.
I've never lived my life counting on anybody.
No.
Other than anything, really,
Yeah.
nothing. The person in my life that's with me at the time, I hope supports me.
Yeah.
In nice words. I never have lived my life expecting anybody to do anything. I was taught that at a young age.
Yeah. I tell Chris all the time, drives him nuts. I come into this world with nothing, I'll probably go out with nothing.
Yeah, I ain't taking it with me.
It drives you crazy,
Yeah.
don't it, Chris? He says, I'm going to make sure you don't. I'm working on it.
Yeah. What good's it going to do you? What good's it going to do you? I do have life insurance and different retirement accounts that the loved ones that I leave will be okay. That's a responsible thing to do, right?
Yeah.
You can't build your wife and kids a $500,000 house and leave them with no income. You know what I mean? That's a dick move.
Yeah.
You got to have a plan. Okay, I've created this. How am I going to pay for it even if I'm not here? And people that live our lives like that are, I hate to say, almost the minority. But the minority now, you know what I mean? Because everybody's like, I just got a $4 raise. I'm going to go buy a new pickup.
Yeah.
I have a really close friend who, when I was living in Florida, it was in the early 90s, I guess I started. So I was in my early 20s when I came up and started coming up here every year hunting. It was probably 93, 94. Anyway, my friend Walt told me, come on up. And he lived down in the Augusta, Belgrade area. And come on up and I'll take you out. And I got some places we can hunt. Well, he had hunted like crazy when he was younger. In fact, he hunted just to put meat on the table. I mean, it wasn't sport to him. He was shooting them year round and dragging them right into the kitchen because he didn't have the money to put. So he was surviving on the land and feeding his family with it. And so he'd quit hunting. He just didn't do anything for him, but he thought enough that he was going to take me out and set me up. So the first morning that we're sitting there, he sat with me, sitting there waiting for a deer to come, and it was cold out and kind of miserable, and he's holding a camera. He said, no, I'm just going to shoot him with a camera. You use the gun. Well, he had about a couple hours of that, and he said, we're going back to the house. I'm getting my gun. Well, he started from that point on. He turned in. I mean, he was just on, like, that's all. When fall came, he hunted. He traveled all over the place and lived to hunt.
Yeah.
Bought a beautiful piece of land down there, 300 or 400 acres, put food plots on it, and that's what he did. That was his enjoyment, was managing the land and everything, and so he worked hard. Well, he still worked hard up until the end. He worked hard his whole life, but he always enjoyed it, and he always told me at the end, can't take it with him, and he's going to enjoy it. And he didn't flinch about spending the money to go out and travel and everything else, kind of what you guys were talking about. And we lost him last week. He was, I believe, 81, fit as could be. Worked every day. In fact, he was working down at the town of Belgrade the day before. But he lived his life that way. And if he wouldn't have, if he wouldn't have gone on all those trips and wouldn't have had all those memories and everything, what would that have been worth?
Right.
And so it was. I can still hear him, telling me, and you have to do that. It's you're not gonna. You got to get out and enjoy it and do it while you can, because you don't know.
And I think a lot of people after this should be there. If you're in a position where you can enjoy your life, you should. I always say nobody ever remembers the car you drive or how much money you had, because nobody really cares. You know what I mean? Most people, if you have 10 cents more than they do, are mad about it anyways, in a sense. But you go to the museum in Rangeley, and the guy's name is on the wall that shot the last caribou in that whole country. The horns are on the wall. The gun that shot the caribou is on the wall. And then you look at all the pictures of the guys that caught, 10 and 12 pound brook trout. Those trout are there. The salmon are there. The guys' names are there. Those guys are living in history. in this museum.
Yeah.
And the guy that's driving the Lexus trying to prove a point that he can die with more money than anybody else will never be remembered the day he's gone. Nobody gives a shit.
Was that last caribou shot on Rump Mountain?
Might have been Rump Mountain. Yeah, I'd have to go back in.
I thought my friend Norm had said something about that at one time, and I wondered how he knew. I didn't realize it was a thing.
Yeah, if anybody gets to Rangeley, you got to go to that museum. The logging museum's good, but that outdoor museum that we have, Bill Pierce is a curator, good friend of mine, great guy, awesome curator, and I'm a history buff anyways. I love it, appreciate it. That museum is worth the $5.
Yeah.
And if you ain't got $5, stop in and tell Bill to put it on my tab, because I send a lot of people there and I tell them the same thing. You ain't got $5, tell them to put it on my tab, and Bill will laugh because we exchange things. I do stuff for the museum, and I'm glad to see them open. So.
Yeah. Well, the one here in Jackman's good too. They moved it up to the old movie theater in town, and they just renovated it. They put a whole new foundation under it this summer, but that's quite a museum too. It's not yours over in Rangeley there in the log building. It looks, like outdoorsy. The one in town here is in the, white clapboard building, but it's the same idea. They got all the history of the stuff, and I don't know. They probably got that stuff. I haven't been in for a while. I haven't actually been in it since it moved down there. It used to be at the town hall. And then that big building, the old schoolhouse building. But same thing with the caribou here. They had the caribou here, and there's one of the buildings downtown. There's still a pair of caribou antlers out on the building downtown.
Yeah,
we've got an old picture in the camp that was there when my parents bought it years ago. The camp was built in 1909, and there was a picture that came with it. It's a big blown up, like a nice photograph of 5 or 6 caribou swimming across the lake, and I would assume it's in Maine. I'd love to know where it's at.
Maybe it's here.
It could be.
Yeah. Well, they were here. You can. I think they said the last caribou shot here was in the 30s, somewhere's in the 30s, and you can fly over the bogs here. Like if you fly over Number 5 bog, you can see the old caribou trails in those in the brush in the bogs. They're still there.
Yep.
Yeah. Any of the old open bogs like that, you see the old caribou trails.
Crazy.
I guess we're at an hour and a half. Chris is going to get mad if we keep going much longer. This has been kind of an unconventional podcast today.
Kind of flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Well, this will be the challenge to see how the listenership either goes up or down. If they want to hear more of it, then that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I don't think we're going to turn it into a political show, but there is a point where, look, if we're going to be genuine and natural and just say what we feel, I mean, that's what we got to do then. Right. And I also wanted to say I received, Joe finally connected with his deer. I received a lot of messages. I want to appreciate it. Everyone.
They've been pulling for you.
Oh, Joe? Yeah. It was nice, but it was a lot of fun to finally walk up on a dead one. But it was a long season, fun season. Now we're into shed mode, and now I'm obsessed with that.
Yep.
And
you can go look for them without a snow machine now.
I know. Yeah, figures. I bought a new sled. Now I can't use it.
You should have known.
I'm sure we'll get some snow this winter, though. But
oh yeah, always do. Well, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we were getting ready to open, and Christmas there was not a flake of snow in the yard. And I put another picture next to it. New Year's Day, we had sleds lined up. We were grooming and everything.
Yeah.
So it changes quick.
Yeah. It's not in the forecast right now, but.
And I hate to remind people, but last winter didn't leave till the end of May.
Yeah, the last 2 years. I remember. Yeah, well, I did my deer clinics last spring. I could drive up in there, but we still had snow in the woods. The first clinic, the first weekend in May, there was still snow in the woods. It was. You could get around it and have to walk through it a little bit, and then it went off that week, and then the next weekend we were doing the clinic in snow. It snowed Friday and Saturday.
No kidding.
We're walking around in 3-4 inches of snow trying to see sign on the ground and stuff, you know. So yeah, it was a long winter again, but like I said, anytime them deer can get into the first of the year without having to yard up, I mean, it would have to be extremely brutal for them not to, make it good, and have a good winter. And one thing I did note, I didn't mention it when I was talking about them trail cameras. Almost every doe had one or two little fellas with them.
Okay.
Yeah. There was one big old doe, a huge one of them battle axe does, and she was just fat. Big, looked like a barrel coming down through by herself. That was one of them old barren ones. I bet that thing weighed 180 pounds. Yeah, would dress 180. Nice. It was huge. Yeah. But other than that, most all of them had one or two little fellas with them, or they might have their doe fawn from 2 years, the year before, so there's 3 different sized ones. But yeah, it's a pretty good showing of deer. So all those deer coming down, that the population's growing good,
Yep.
So that's good. I didn't hurt the population this year, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, he was at a little disadvantage with some stuff, but you're going to have that fixed by next fall.
Well,
right?
I'm excited to actually share the transformation of
Lee Libby,
the average dummy. 'Cause Hal's known me since 2006, and year after year I tell him I'm not going to do it again. I'm not taking these projects on. I'm going to be free for deer hunting season. It's a lie. I know it's a lie when I say it. I don't sit there and think, okay, I'm going to lie to Hal about how I'm going to try to change. It's just it comes out. The next thing you know, somebody calls and says, hey, I really need you to do this for me. And you're like, all right, I'm going to try to get that done. And then you're screwed. We've said no to work since May 1st. No. The phone rings. No, I'm sorry. No. It's taken us from May 1st to this day to almost catch up. Still got 8 weeks of furniture ahead of us to catch up.
That's great.
Yeah, but in the meantime, here comes this project that I didn't want, but it's a really neat project, and I committed to it. But that's the only one. That's it. We don't need to try and please everybody.
If you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody.
Oh, yeah. And people, I don't want to say people suck today, but people kind of suck today. You know what
Welcome
I mean?
back, Lee.
Oh, I've never seen such a demanding.
We're putting Lee in charge of public relations for Big Woods.
Oh, because people have to wait. I mean, you can't get building materials. It's a struggle to even get nuts and bolts and nails. You know what I mean? And people just don't understand. Why is my house not done? Well, let's see. We've been waiting for trusses for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Is that normal? No, it's not normal. Welcome to COVID. You got half the people working in the truss factory. The economy's booming.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
That's another mystery we'll talk about on the next podcast.
Yeah.
How we can be $29 trillion in debt and going through this pandemic, and everyone's working. It's booming.
Can't work any harder.
No.
Everybody I know, you can't work any harder. When do you catch up?
And Chris suffers from that too. Promises he's going to be here, and then he never does.
Yeah. Well, I hope it can be
Take that,
inspiration. Yeah. And I hope by putting it out here that it helps me change, because I'm so sick of hunting 4 days a year.
Yeah.
It's a joke. I love it. I haven't set a trap in 8 years, and I love to trap. I know the fur prices are down. You don't do it for the money anyways. But I haven't found a shed antler. It's too easy for guys to show up at my shop and I just buy them for the furniture, So a lot of things.
You don't want to start that. There's too much competition now.
Yeah. Oh, I know, but it's another reason to be out there.
It is.
Recreation. That's
absolutely.
It's another reason to be out there.
Well, it's been good having you back, Lee.
Well, I'm here for a while until I get sick of you guys again.
Or just sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we ought to wrap it up. And so if these guys offend you at all, I apologize for them.
Yeah, I know. It's just like Joe said, it's been building up. And we was trying to clean out our fan base to see who was a fan and who wasn't.
Well, I don't look at it as, in my eyes, I don't see us voicing our opinion as trying to piss anyone off. It's just as that's what we are. So it is what it is. And I just think there's nothing wrong with us speaking freely and speaking our mind. We
Well, I
don't owe
think
it. We
that's
don't
the
owe
new
it. To, we
world.
don't owe it to anyone to not offend them. If you're offended by it, well, whatever.
Yeah, it's not. We didn't. I don't think anybody should be offended by things we've said. It's because if they got a different opinion, it's fine.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's the problem. Is nowadays nobody thinks you should have a different
Yeah,
opinion.
that's
Everybody
it. So if you have a different opinion than us, great.
right.
If you don't want to listen, that's fine.
Right.
But we don't hold it against anybody for different opinions. It's just we're all different. If we were all the same, it wouldn't be much fun. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.